We are now approaching the 50th anniversary of Title IX. You know, Title IX is this way to give women lots of distinct opportunities in educational environments. And in the most ironic, hilarious way to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Title IX, Joe Biden has decided to push to extend the Title IX protections that go to women to men who pretend to be women. So Joe Biden is celebrating the half-century anniversary of Title IX by completely destroying Title IX. And it's bad. The stuff that he's doing is bad, and it's bad to recognize this delusion of transgenderism in federal law, and it's just wrong from an ontological and moral and legal standpoint. It is, but it's kind of funny. It is. We have to admit, it's kind of funny that we've gone full circle here and had feminism completely destroyed by the poisonous fruits that it put out well over 50 years ago, that the second wave of feminism put out. It does remind us, too, you can't have it all. You can't have everything. This is a theme I've talked about a lot. I wrote a book about it. We talk about it in this show. Society requires limits. Limits to our speech, limits to our behavior, limits to our institutions, limits to our laws, limits to our rights. You need limits. You need limits for liberty. If liberty is to have any sense at all, it needs to have limits. If it doesn't have limits, it becomes licentiousness and you lose the whole system. So what Biden is proposing is to change Title IX's protections, which protect people on the basis of sex, to protect LGBTQI plus students from discrimination based on sexual orientation, gender identity, and sex characteristics. This according to Biden's Department of Education. But you can't protect everything. You can't be totally inclusive of everything and everyone. You can't tolerate everything. If we're going to be really tolerant and open toward the transgender students, then we are not going to be so tolerant of the women who don't want dudes changing in their locker room. If we're going to be tolerant of the women and protect women, which was the whole point of Title IX in the first place, then you can't protect the so-called rights of the so-called transgender students because you can't let the dudes into the women's sports leagues and into the locker rooms and into the bathrooms. You have to pick one. And the Biden administration is pretending not to pick one. The Biden administration is pretending to just be really open and inclusive to everybody, man, but they're not. They are tacitly endorsing the transgenderism, and they are tacitly throwing the chicks under the bus. Does Joe Biden know that he's doing that? Probably not. But the people who are working for him and the people who are leading him around by the hand certainly are. There's been a big debate over just how far gone Joe Biden is. Some people have argued that Joe Biden actually, even though he talks like he's not all there, and even though he seems to fall down a lot, he's the president. He's the one calling the shots. He's not being handled. He's not being led around. He's the decider. I don't think that's true. I don't think it's true, not just because the man is obviously diminished. I don't think it's true because the man has never believed anything ever. The man was always kind of being led around, if not by handlers, then by the prevailing political winds. The guy is just an empty suit. And now it's not merely a matter of him not knowing what he thinks about a certain issue. Now it's a matter of he doesn't know how to act when he walks into a room. And we just saw this because of a photograph that the White House released. It was zoomed in on. Greg Price pointed this out. Biden was holding a sheet of paper that told him exactly what to do, where to sit, what to do. You can read it right there. He says, "You," all capital letters, "you enter the Roosevelt room and say hello to participants. You take your," all caps, "seat. Press enters. You give brief comments. The press departs. You ask Liz Shuler of the AFL-CIO a question. You thank participants. You depart." So even these really basic things. You sit down in your chair. You stop making it so obvious that you're reading these notes that we gave to you. This is pretty clear that Joe Biden is being led around. I do wish that whoever gave him this sheet of paper would instruct him on how to fix the economy, would instruct him on how to restart American oil and gas production, would teach him anything productive rather than how to comport himself around the press. But that is probably too much to ask. He just looks so weak. He looks so weak because he's frail and he's doddering and he's stuttering and he's falling down and he doesn't even know how to get into a room by himself. But he also looks weak from the standpoint of policy. We have record high gas. We've had record high gas for what, over 20 consecutive days now or something like that. I'm in California. Gas is $7 a gallon in some places, or more, $8 a gallon in some places. So what's Joe Biden going to do to fix it? Well, Joe Biden's plan is he's going to ask the gas companies in a really stern voice to lower the prices.
So let's be honest with one another. My message is simple. To the companies running gas stations and setting those prices at the pump, this is a time of war, global peril, Ukraine. These are not normal times. Bring down the price you are charging at the pump to reflect the cost you are paying for the product. Do it now. Do it today.
That's his plan. His plan is asking the gas companies to lower their prices and then say, do it now. That's not a plan. That's not a plan. By the way, it's not as though the gas companies are just raising their prices to make a lot of money. Yes, the gas companies want to maximize their profits, but that's nothing new. That's true in ordinary times. That's true in extraordinary times. And if the gas companies were not facing pressure because of things like the war in Ukraine, because of things like increased demand, because of things like Joe Biden shutting down new oil and gas production and shutting down new oil pipelines, if they weren't facing that, they would be able to lower their prices. They are trying to compete with one another. It's not just like there's one gas company. They are trying to compete with one another, but that's where the market is right now. And the market's there, not just because of these sad, terrible turns of misfortune that have afflicted Joe Biden out of pure happenstance. These things are happening because of decisions that Joe Biden made.
So for all those Republicans in Congress criticizing me today for high gas prices in America, are you now saying we were wrong to support Ukraine? Are you saying we were wrong to stand up to Putin? Are you saying that we would rather have lower gas prices in America and Putin's iron fist in Europe? I don't believe that.
No, we're saying you should have dealt with all of that stuff the first time and not personally invited Vladimir Putin to invade Ukraine. The revisionist history that comes from this guy is so audacious. You almost have to respect the sheer tenacity of it. Except to be fair, he probably doesn't remember he said it. Joe Biden, rolled out the red carpet for Putin by lifting the sanctions on Putin's oil pipeline, the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which Ukraine President Zelensky says caused the Russian invasion. So Biden causes the Russian invasion. Then, when Putin's getting ready to invade, he literally invites him to invade and says, well, if it's just a minor incursion into Ukraine, then we're not going to really do anything about that. So he says, you can do it. You can invade Donbas. You can invade the eastern parts of the country. That's totally fine. Then, knowing that we're going to have the oil markets going crazy, he shuts down future oil and gas leases in America. He didn't need to do that. He just chose to do that. Previously, he had shut down oil pipelines in America, so he gives the green light to Putin's pipeline, but he shuts down the American pipelines. And when you shut down one pipeline, it's not just that you shut down one pipeline. You are signaling that the government is not going to back any new oil pipelines when there's pushback. So he does all of those things. No, buddy, when we're complaining about this, you can't just fall back on the traditional Democrat strategy of saying that we're colluding with Vladimir Putin. You can't do that. First of all, you're the one who was weak on Putin, and you were so weak on Putin that it caused all these problems in the first place. And then you showed up and got tough a little bit too late. And then you made a bunch of stupid decisions on how to punish Vladimir Putin that had no effect on him, by the way. Russia's doing just fine right now. We're the ones feeling the pain. Russia is not feeling the same kind of pain that Joe Biden insisted that he would be, that Putin would be, and that Russia would be. And so now we're in this situation that because of him, the only thing that he can do is say, hey, you oil companies, bring down your prices. Thanks a lot, buddy. Tell me when that's going to work. Not very intimidating. I'm so glad you liked that clip. Now, hold up, stop in the name of love. Ring that bell, ding, dong, like it, smash it, click it, whatever you got to do. Get the notifications for The Michael Knowles Show. We're approaching 1 million subscribers, which is really extremely fun. I want my big gold button from YouTube before they shut me down permanently. Go do it. We'll see you next time.